Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television. It's that segment of the show where we would be looking at issues that border on our national polity. And this morning, we will be discussing yet another one. For any country to succeed and make appreciable progress, there must be some level of transparency and accountability in the discharge of responsibility by public office holders. This is critical as they have social contracts with the people and are also responsible for managing resources of the state entrusted to them. To ensure that the public officials are accountable, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria requires that public office holders declare their assets on the assumption of office. With successful conduct of the 2023 general elections, and the emergence of new public officers to run the affairs of government in the next 4 years, one prerequisite is the declaration of assets, which is just as important as the oath of office. Asset declaration by public office holder is what we will be dwelling on in this morning Daybreak show. And we're privileged to have in the studios the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau, Professor Mohammed Isa. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning.
And it's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. We are discussing a whole different issue this morning, not the regular politics or contest for speakers of the National Assembly. We are now looking at processes and procedures that would actually enable even the functionality of government, and which is why the Code of Conduct exists. Only about last week or 2 weeks, we understand that you have commenced the declaration of assets by incoming office holders. Before we go into other matters, can you bring us to speed with how far compliance have been achieved in this regard and why this is critical ahead of May 29th?
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to come and shed some light to the general public and public officers in particular in respect of this constitutional obligation on all of them that to declare assets either before assumption of office or immediately after assumption of office. Let me just correct an impression that the political office holders elect that emerged as a result of 2023 general elections have so far been filling up their asset declaration forms and what have you. The impression is to some extent partly yes, partly no, because the Code of Conduct Bureau has not come out to publicize this issue. But just as you are saying, we in the Code of Conduct Bureau, we are seeing it on the pages of newspapers. For instance, the Punch of Wednesday or Tuesday carried the news on the front page, a caption that CCB told the president-elect to declare his assets or submit his form before May 29th. And I don't know how they got the information. Our officer that was quoted to have told them this, we got her and we asked her, she said no, she has never said that. So, but that's notwithstanding, it is our mandate. They at least in some way did the work the Code of Conduct Bureau is supposed to do, to go out there and call on the public officers, particularly the political office holders just elected, to fill in their asset declaration forms before assumption of office. And as you've said, we have given our directives. That was by end of last month's meeting of the board, that all the state officials that were elected, governor, deputy governor, and members of the
State Assemblies
be given forms. And some of our board members, they have even made symbolic presentations to some selected governors within their own geopolitical zones. That has been done. So, but the fact that we have a way of doing things it doesn't mean that we have come out to the public to tell everybody that this is what we are doing. Of course, people have their own sources of getting information, and we cannot block it and we cannot deny it. That is it.
All right, so why is it so important for public office holders or those assuming public office to declare their assets either, before they are sworn in or immediately after?
So it is, one, I can say it is a legal obligation for those that are required to declare before assumption of office. We have a set of elected political office holders who must declare their asset, and also to some extent appointed political office holders who must declare their asset before assumption of office. This one is just constitutional. It's constitutional. Looking at the sensitivity of some offices and also the issue of responsibility, the magnitude, that is to say how big the responsibility in that office is, may suggest that the makers of the constitution now think that, okay, these people have a trust that is bigger than any other public officer in them. And just as your colleague says that it is a social contract, this set of public officers are elected, and the social contract is stronger in bondage than just somebody that is appointed as a civil servant. So that trust must be kept, and before they get into office, the intendment of the makers of the constitution find it pertinent that they should declare their assets. And this category of the public officers are the president, vice president, members of National Assembly. That is at the national level. Then those that are going to be appointed by the president are the ministers and SAs to the president. We also have judicial officers. Before taking the oath of the office, they also must declare their assets. We have a replica of this crop of officers in the subnational level. That is in the states.
All right. One question that seemed to reverberate in the minds of Nigerians is, every time we have had an election, the code of conduct come into reckoning. And then there is substantial compliance, if not complete compliance, as the case may be. And then the code of conduct disappears into oblivion and then reemerges at another election cycle. So the question really is, besides just the constitutional or legal requirements of making this information available, is there anything we do with those information, whether it is in the light of verifying or ascertaining? Because the impression is people can declare in anticipation of what they will acquire, so that when they eventually acquire those things, maybe by crook or by hook, it will just basically have fitted whatever declarations they probably had made to you. What do we do, in between these declarations and when they serve, to sort of verify and ascertain that these declarations are what they should be?
Yes, this declaration is a process. Asset declaration, it doesn't stop at submitting the form to the Code of Conduct Bureau. The Code of Conduct Bureau is saddled with the responsibility of examining the declaration of every public officer that has been submitted to it. The process of this examination, one, we have to ascertain through a technical method we call verification. This verification exercise, we have bring in some reforms as at the time we came in, and it took us some times to ensure that those reforms come to stay. For instance, you find out that a declarant is required to declare his bank accounts and balances in that bank accounts. Then he is required also to declare his real assets or fixed assets, landed properties, such as landed properties, And these landed properties are wide. There are developed buildings, we have vacant lands, we have undeveloped or underdeveloped buildings, we have farms, we have orchards, we have ranches, we have other farms like maybe fish farms, poultries and what have you. So all these ones are included in fixed assets. Then we have also movable assets or vehicles, and these vehicles ranges from bicycle to
Tractors.
to aeroplane and what have you,
Private jets.
and as well as maybe ships. So all these ones are included. Then we have also foreign accounts, foreign interests in investments and also in companies, which as well we have this one also. We have portion for the Nigerian foreign Nigerian corporations, corporate interests and investments. We also have in the form still issues that has to do with spouses. What your spouses, how many wives you have, and what are their own assets if they are not public officers. And children under the age of 18 years. What are their assets if they have, and you have to declare those assets for your children under 18 years.
Okay.
The issue here is that when all these things are collected, then the reforms we brought into the verification exercise is that now we contact our sister agencies that are stakeholders in these issues. For instance, when we talk of bank accounts, we have to now liaise with NFIU. We get all information, run the BVN of the declarant. From there we can see whether the declarant who declared only 5 bank accounts and their balances, he has only 5 bank accounts. By the time his BVN is run, so we'll come to realize that maybe he has more than that 5 bank accounts. Maybe he has 20, 30, 40 or 50. Now what happens with the rest? Why are they not declared? And these bank accounts are not only bank accounts that are personal to him, but every bank account that is linked to his BVN. Maybe he has companies. There are accounts, and these accounts in the companies are linked to his BVN. They will appear. And at least that shows the interest he has in that company. And then we find out whether he has declared that company. If it has not been declared, it's another thing. So all these things we now put together. We now also connect with Corporate Affairs Commission. We connect with SEC. We connect with the Aegis, if it is here in Abuja, or land registries in states where lands are situated in a particular state and whatever. By the time we put all this information together, we make our analysis. And now we come to a conclusion that whether a true declaration and a true and honest declaration has been done or not. At this point, if there is a need for us to call or to invite the declarant, we invite him. Then by the time we invite him, gray areas will ask him to clarify.
Okay, so one thing that comes to the mind of an average Nigerian when the Code of Conduct Bureau is mentioned is assets declaration and tracking, precisely. So aside assets declaration, are there any other codes enforced by the CCB? And if there are, perhaps you would like to elaborate some of them.
Yes, we have other codes. Some among the codes we have, apart from asset declaration, we have conflict of interest.
Okay.
We have abuse of office. We have double remuneration. We have bribery. We have maintaining foreign accounts, but this is restricted to certain category of some public officers.
Okay.
We have issue of maybe belonging to a secret society or membership of a secret society. These are the most serious ones. as I mentioned, but there are others maybe refusing to comply and what have you.
Okay, so in
yes.
understanding how you carry out those other functions, are they things that you moving to investigate, or you have to rely on a petition, as we have in the case of the EFCC? And the case in point would be issues around maintaining a foreign account. We have seen, at the risk of not mentioning any names, how some lawmakers had had cause to even display their foreign bank account online, in a bid to justify the purchase or acquisition of a property abroad or something. What is the position of the CCB with regards to maintaining a foreign account?
As I said earlier, it's restricted to certain a category of public officers.
Yes.
It does not apply to all. Like the president, vice president, governor, deputy governor, members of National Assembly, I think ministers also. These are the category of public officers that are prohibited from maintaining and operating foreign accounts. Other public officers have not been prohibited by the Constitution to do that. But it is an obligation upon every public officer who declares his asset to declare a foreign account that is in existence, just as it is an obligation to declare a local account, a domestic account that is in existence. The balances and what have you. When you take, for instance, issue of conflict of interest, you find out that declaration of these accounts or otherwise, as well as interest in the corporate interest and investments, is very necessary. Sometimes a conflict of interest, you find out that simply is where a public officer allow his personal interest to conflict with his official duty. So the conflict that arises out of this, and which interest has not been declared at a point in time, or the interest that is very material for the officer to be sure that such an interest is not an interest that will jeopardize the generality of his activities, official activities. So that officer, by whatever way, is expected to declare that interest. Where the conflict arises, it is an offense. It is a violation of what we call the totality of all these codes under Part 2 of the 5th Schedule to the Constitution, Code of Conduct for Public Officers. Under Part 1, I mean to say, of the 5th Schedule to the Constitution, Code of Conduct for Public Officers. So this Code of Conduct for Public Officers, they are applicable to all the public officers as listed under Part 2 of the 5th Schedule to the Constitution.
All right, so talking about the provisions of the Code of Conduct, what does the law say about failure to declare assets? And aside that, falsification and also falsification of said asset declaration, are there penalties, aside disqualification?
Yes, there is penalty as it is now under the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act. The penalty is specified under Section 23 of the Act. And not only for the failure to declare asset declaration, but for the violation of all these codes. This penalty is one to, if that public officer is occupying an office at that material time, to order him to vacate that office. Two, and also to prohibit him from holding any public office for 10 years. And 3, the property involved in the commission of the offense be confiscated to the federal government of Nigeria. For asset declaration, under it there are a series of elements relating to offenses that relating to issues or relating to what will constitute asset declaration offenses. We have false non-declaration first. We have false declaration, which may be anticipatory declaration. We also have living above means. After, maybe I will explain the last one. These ones are very clear, the first two. The last one is where it's a situation whereby after a public officer declared his asset, then after some times it is discovered that the style, the pattern of his living, his living standard has changed.
Probably for the better.
Yes, probably for the better. And beyond what is expected of his income, of his lawful income that is commensurate with the office is occupying. So under these circumstances, the Code of Conduct Bureau, once it gets information or it generates intelligence, will invite him to come and explain the sources of his the sources of all these material acquisitions. If he has been able to explain, and it is within the purview of the law, that maybe what he has been getting or what he has gotten is as a result of inheritance or lawful loan or gift, that is a lawful gift, because not all gifts are allowed to a public officer. So if it falls within all this, within the expectation of law, fine and good. But if he has no defense to that, then at the end of the day, the burden of proof is shifted on him to prove that he has gotten these things through a lawful means. What the Code of Conduct Bureau will do, will finish its investigation process and file charges against him in the tribunal.
Okay. In the last couple of years, the Code of Conduct Bureau came up with some very strong charges. Remember one time the Senate President was docked by the Code of Conduct Tribunal and the sitting President. But my question really is, you have said so much this morning that ordinarily would put the Code of Conduct Bureau on the newsstand every day for the next 4 years. So why are we not seeing the CCB activate some of these provisions? Because is it that we have a case where our public officers are substantially compliant and don't fall foul, which is different from the perception we have of them and some of the lifestyle we see them live? What has hindered your deploying most of these tools?
And nothing hinders it, and we've been deploying them. But what we are lacking is publicity.
Okay.
What we are lacking is publicity. Sometimes you find out that if you investigate on the pages of newspapers, you lose the focus at the end of the day. But if you investigate in confidence, you will get it right. You get it right. So the moment somebody is suspected to have committed an offense or violate a code of conduct, and we rush to the media, that will not augur well for what we are doing. It will not augur well for us. Just as I explained to you, the processes of the reforms we introduced in the verification exercise, by the time we are getting all these facts and information, the declarant never know. And by the time we invite the declarant, we sit one-on-one with him, who will be getting new facts coming from us, which he knows those facts exist as at the time he filled his form, but they are not in the form. If we had gone to the media, he would have taken some steps to block us. We have had such challenges in so many occasions, even though We've not been going to the media, but sometimes if we have a leakage of our internal mechanisms, you find out that we get blocked. A lot of information will get blocked from getting or accessing that information, either by the subject rushing to the institutions where that information will be obtained and get the whole documentation changed.
All right, so in the next 18 days, Nigeria will be transitioning to a new government. So our final question would be your message to these public office holders in terms of actualizing the vision of transparency, honesty, and accountability.
Yes, let me use this medium today to advocate that. Indeed, issue of transparency and accountability in business of governance is an obligation on all of us. Why? Because it is a trust. It is a trust, public trust. You are here in this media house. All you are doing it on trust. Nobody is watching you. The fact that you have been given this job, you have been given this job on trust. So from the president, who is the leader, who is our leader in the country, to the last public officer in this country, we are all on trust.
All right, very quickly, before we let you go, the declaration of asset is not just when they assume office. I understand there's another at the completion of office. Is that correct? That
Yes.
then enables you compare the difference between what came in 4 years ago and now. How substantive is the compliance with that one, as much as we're interested in those who are coming into office?
Yes, that one we have been pursuing it. The only difference you find is that one there is no time limitation within which this category of public officers I mentioned should submit.
Okay.
So they can submit even after leaving office, because the law is silent on that. But the law is very much expressed on that they have to submit before they assume office. There are a category of public officers that are allowed to submit after assumption of office. So as well also after leaving office or while leaving office, the law did not say that you must submit before you leave office. But we are very much watchful and also following up with the public officers that are leaving office.
All right.
Yes.
Interesting conversations we have had there with the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau, Professor Mohammed Issa, who has enumerated quite substantially the responsibility of that bureau. So much responsibility is vested on the bureau by the provisions of the Constitution, and Nigerians indeed are looking forward to a bureau that would help in championing transparency and the fight for good governance, along with several other agencies of government. I want to thank you very much for finding time to come to the studio, sir. And we hope that we would keep this conversation going so that we can get Nigerians abreast with your responsibility. And let me also assure you that Trust TV and its sister organizations are ready. Whenever you are ready to make any of these actions,
Yes.
put them in the public domain. We are willing partners to join in that in discharging of that responsibility. All right, this is the much that we have for you this morning on Daybreak. If you have missed out on any of our interesting packages, please recourse to our social media handle on YouTube and several other handles that we have to catch up on what we have for you, and do well to also stay with Trust Television for all other interesting lineup for you throughout the day. I hope we have brought value to you this morning. I am Sunday Michael Ogu. Let's do this again tomorrow.
And I'm Sagir Ibrahim. Thanks for watching, and join us again.